Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Please just let me know in your chat box, just to let me know if you can hear me. Just say hi, yes, you can hear me. Great, thank you. Brian, I see you. Sister Jenny, much appreciated. All right, so we've got quite a few people in here already, and we are looking at a few more still to join us, but I always want to make sure that I respect those who make it on time, and just to, start on time as promised. So I appreciate everybody for being here today. I'm very excited about this topic. Not only is it really a buzzword, and it's, I believe, rightfully so. I think we've all seen how, how devastating the recent disruption by COVID-19 has been over the last few months. But companies and consultants and strategists who've been on this topic really about digital transformation have seen it coming for years. Actually, this morning on LinkedIn, I posted a video on LinkedIn, and it was really, it was a video from back in 2016 already. That's what, 4 or 5 years ago, and it was really speaking about what we've clearly seen happening over the last couple of months, and it's really been devastating. So much so that I personally am forced, to change the language that I use, to be a little bit more empathetic. Not that I wasn't, but it's really one of those tough and very emotional times now that one has to kind of watch what they say. But if I do come across a little harsh, please know that it's not intended to be so. So Sister Jenny says, good morning to everyone. Good morning to everyone once again. And again, I want to really respect your time, and we're going to get started right away. I hope you can see the screen. Basically, in almost all cases, if you can hear me, you should be able to see the screen, but please just confirm for me, just so we can make sure that that is the case. So please let me know if you can see the screen. It should really be the opening slide of the presentation. What I love is everybody understands now how Zoom works. Back in the past, we all had to give instructions, user instructions in the beginning. But I'm glad now everybody's kind of on board around these things. And thanks guys. I see your acknowledgement of the fact that you can see the screen. Much appreciated. I remember how back in the day, people never wanted to do meetings online. People never wanted to attend webinars, but it's really become the norm now, and which is a very good thing. Let us take the advantage as much as possible, obviously. Linda, I appreciate it. Thank you. Again, good morning to everyone. We're just going to get started. We're going to jump straight in. So before we really start, I just want to provide a word of caution to say, please avoid distractions as much as you can. And what I am going to share with you is not at all a get rich quick scheme. Digital transformation is really about, running more of a marathon than running a sprint, right? It's something that's going to take time, something that needs depth, which is what I'm going to provide you. I'm going to provide you with depth and really that insight today. And also, please bear in mind that what I'm going to share with you is simple. It sounds simple, at least to some extent, right? But it's really not easy to do. And I do encourage you to ask as many questions as you can. We will, however, we typically answer questions at the end, but if there's something that pops in your mind as you see it or as you hear it, please ask the question, and we'll make sure to address it at that moment if it's at all possible. However, we'll make sure to address the questions at the end. And I do encourage you to please use the questions section of the Zoom chat. So you have a chat and you have a Q&A. For questions, please make sure that you put them under the Q&A so that they don't get lost in the chat should we be having an active chat today. And I do encourage you to be active and so forth. So we have a lot to cover. I did experience load shedding yesterday, and for some reason today I'm having internet problems as well. But this is standard. We always say, if there are any technical drops, please make sure to just, if it happens on your end, simply use the same link that you use to join. You'll be able to join, again. If the problem is on my end, just give me 2-3 minutes and I'll join back in. But I shouldn't have a problem because I've also got my mobile modem here as well, should we have any technical issues. So that's just to let you know that will be the case. So, Sister Jenny, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to provide you that link, but the same link that you use to register, please feel free to forward it. If it's still, hopefully they'll be able to catch up and join us. So feel free to just forward that link if at all possible. Sister Jenny is from Gracia Machel Trust, who's one of our clients. We are actually building a technical and digital learner management system for them. Gracia Machel, just a little bit about Gracia Machel. Gracia Machel Trust run the Women Creating Wealth program for Africa. And one of the issues that they had, obviously, with COVID-19 is they were not able to run their in-person program with over 120 entrepreneurs in the country. My team and I have been in the process of helping them to develop a portal and an online system that's going to help them to facilitate the program online. It should be going live in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, thanks again for making the time to attend. Fantastic. With that said, for those who don't know me, I'm KK Diaz. I'm a business and a digital transformation strategist. And through my company, we've written a couple of books. The last one that you see here, which is Thrive, for those who haven't downloaded it yet, I'm going to make sure that there'll be a follow-up email. I'll make sure to include that link. It is a free book. You can also get it on Kindle. I believe on Kindle it's something like $1.99. But we'll definitely give you a PDF copy for free. So, and I do encourage you to read these books. They're very good, if I may say so myself. They've been very good and value adding to our clients who've had the pleasure of reading them. And the services we provide: business strategy, digital transformation, digital marketing support in a nutshell, without spending much more time. And some of our clients, as you can see on the screen, they are across the spectrum from an industry perspective and right across the spectrum in terms of size. I mean, we've got multi-billion rand annual turnover companies all the way down to small businesses that are run by small business owners, by entrepreneurs who are really doing, the best that they can do, which I commend you folks for all the hard work that you're putting into to help grow those businesses. I think it is indisputable rather, that we have to do the best that we can to not only grow our businesses, but to create those jobs, because we are heading uncharted territory, and an uncharted territory that has already resulted in so many people having lost millions of jobs around the world. And with that said, folks, one of my favorite quotes is one that was attributed to Alvin Toffler. It's said that somebody else actually had said this, but Alvin Toffler is the one that's been known to have said that the illiterate of the 21st century is not somebody who cannot read and write, but it's somebody who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? So this is really about adapting. Now, are you able to adapt is really the question that we need to answer here. Over the last decades, say tens of decades previously, businesses were always facing failure as a serious risk. I mean, we were looking at 65 to 80% of businesses failing within 3 years, and only 4% of them really being able to scale beyond and thrive really beyond the 10 years mark. And just before, I guess, a few years ago, and before COVID-19 really hit, if you look at the S&P 500, which is the stock exchange in the US, some leading companies already on that stock exchange would have lost at least the existence and the life cycle of those businesses. We're up to 50 years we're up to 67 years rather at some point, but that life cycle shrunk to something like 15 years. Folks, this was prior to COVID-19. Can you imagine the devastation that COVID-19 has actually had on the survival and the life cycle of businesses? I don't have to ask you if you can imagine. We've all seen it in person. We know a business or are part of a business that's seen this devastation and are obviously seeing what's happening around the world. Now, you might be asking yourself, in terms of contextualizing it, why has the devastation been so massive? And why is it, even though certain countries and certain places that are opening are still not able to catch up again? Here's the reason. The reason is because of something called an inflection point, okay? Now, prior to COVID-19, there was an inflection point that was already taking place, okay? Going back to that, one of those videos that I mentioned that was predicted in 2016 in terms of the change and the impact of digital technology that was taking place at the time behind the scenes, this inflection point was already taking place. Now, the inflection point that we are referring to here is one where digital technology and business meet, right? And they meet and they have a serious impact in as far as businesses are concerned. And so what is an inflection point, if you're asking? An inflection point is a phenomena or an event, right? One that significantly changes circumstances or the progress of a company, of an industry, of an economy, or even a political situation. Now, that change is either significantly positive or it's significantly negative, right? And it's one that is very decisive, i.e. nothing can escape that inflection point or the effect of that inflection point, right? And what this means is, regardless of what industry you're in, right, if you don't adopt digital transformation in time, right, you stand to fail. And we've seen that, right? We've seen how businesses that had adopted digital transformation prior to COVID-19 are in a much better position to thrive and to survive right now and to succeed, right? Versus those that did not take up that opportunity. And then what happens? COVID-19 hits, okay? And then it accelerates and exacerbates this problem beyond measure, beyond anyone of our imagination. And so what I do appreciate now about the situation we're in is we don't have to preach so much about the importance of adopting or adapting to digital transformation, but it's more about how, okay, which is what I appreciate everybody being on this webinar is looking to at least learn more about and to find ways that they can accelerate their own journey towards digital transformation. Again, I just want to highlight the point that this inflection point took place. And this is why we are in the situation we're in. And I don't know if you folks have heard, but apparently there's another flu-like illness or disease that is also seemingly originating from China. It seems to be a swine flu, and it's said it might be even more dangerous than COVID-19 in the sense that it's also quicker to transmit because it's from swine, i.e. Pork or pig, and so it's much quicker to transfer to human beings. So we really need to be careful and to really start taking such warnings seriously, i.e. there might just be another negative inflection point around the corner. So let's make sure we prepare ourselves for that. So now, with COVID-19, business and digital technology having come together to create this inflection point, right? Now, what happens? It causes what's called digital disruption, okay? Digital disruption is really defined as when the changes in a competitive environment results from new market entrants or from pandemics, right? That will establish competitors in a way that would typically undermine the viability of your products, your service, or your company, or even your go-to-market approach, which is really what we've seen over the last couple of months. Folks, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the purpose of your business, as defined by Peter Drucker, he says the purpose of your business is to find customers, right? It's to find customers, to sell to them, and to keep those customers, okay? Now, unless you've been living under a rock over the last few months, I'm sure you've realized that the way that customers find, the way they look for customers, the way that they look for products and services, when they find them, how they buy them, and how they use those products and services has actually evolved significantly over the last couple of decades, but specifically and more so over the last couple of months. Now, you may be wondering, what are some of these changes, at least for purposes of contextualizing it for yourself? Number one, instant gratification, right? We live in a culture and in a time where we want things and we want them right now, okay? So instant gratification is something, or at least what I'm going to be showing you next, are things that you shouldn't undermine at all, that speak to the need to accelerate your digital transformation, okay? There are things like on-demand delivery. i.e. when we want things, we want to be able to get them. We don't necessarily want to constantly be buying and paying for things. We want to be able to access them when we need them. Okay, that's the difference between instant gratification and on-demand delivery. We want to pay for things when we need them. Okay, and you also have subscription economy, i.e. pay as you go. You look at easy examples like Netflix. You can subscribe, you can unsubscribe whenever you don't feel like paying for a particular service. And this is one of those things that many businesses are unable to do, i.e. enable their customers to switch off. Right? When you consider now the extent to which the buying power of most customers have been devastated, you want to be able to evolve and adapt your business to be able to provide for subscription and on-demand delivery. Okay, and more importantly, product and service personalization, meaning customers want to feel that a service or a product is specifically personalized for them, or the delivery thereof. And obviously globalization. Just about every other company in the world is also at our doorstep. Companies that are in Italy, around the world, anywhere, Australia, they are in South Africa as well. This is due to globalization, which is something that we also as South Africans need to take advantage of, right? And also something to note around the changed customer preferences and the more so the heightened customer expectations. These have resulted in obviously customers wanting more value for the money that they spend, right? And so it's important to understand that those companies that take advantage of digital transformation will enable their customers to achieve their desired results. They will enable them to achieve or to at least gain those expectations that they have in a faster, in a better way, in a cheaper, smarter, and easier way. Digital transformation will also help you reduce certain steps in the process to which clients access your products and services, to which they purchase them and obviously use them. It'll also help you improve the quality and the process and experience that your customers achieve. It'll help them, increase the knowledge of your customers and create better revenue growth for your company. Okay, I know that these are things that you are thinking about, things that you are realizing. Right. Now, there's something called Smack It. There's a lady who's a professor. Her name is Jean Ross at MIT Center for Information Systems. She and her team actually in 2011 already. So this is literally about 10 years ago. They coined the term Smack It in 2011 to describe the impact of digital technology on society and in business. The acronym really, Smack It, stands for what you're seeing on the screen. It stands for social, mobile, analytics, cloud, and the Internet of Things. And she always jokes about it and saying, the relevance to Smack It is that the change and the impact of which digital technology has come about and has impacted the lives of just about everybody. It feels like a smack, right? Just about every other day, you feel like, hey, there's a new technology, or we need to adapt to this piece of technology, whatever the case may be. Digital technology, that is. And however, this has now evolved to include things like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, robotics, and wearable devices. Folks, things are moving and changing faster than they ever have. And because of how things are moving, disruption to businesses that were not embracing digital technology was always inevitable, okay? The companies that haven't yet started this journey or are not accelerating it, they know they are failing, okay? And I know that some of you, again, all of you, as a matter of fact, are here because you want to change that. So how do you change that? The question is, again, is no longer whether digital disruption will happen to your business or not, but it has, right? And rather the question now is, how are you going to go about adapting to it, right? One of the ways to do that is to have an offense, i.e. the best way to defend yourself against digital disruption or COVID-19 is through an offensive stance, meaning you have to be intentional. Okay, the best defense is an offense in this instance. You have to implement digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? Digital transformation is a profound way and a novel way, meaning a creative, innovative way of using digital technology to change and improve the business model. Very important, okay? Business model, that's very important. Also to change the activities, the processes, competencies, the skills, the understanding of your organization and its ability to be able to provide for those changes that we spoke about earlier, i.e. the changes relating to your ability to trade in the environment that we're in, and more importantly, to enable your business or your organization to cater for those customer preferences that we spoke about, right? And those expectations. And being able to do this will significantly improve the value that you are able to deliver to your customers. All right, so prior to COVID-19, companies that digitally transformed positioned themselves to take advantage of amazing benefits, right? And this is prior to COVID-19. 41% of the companies said they increased market share. 30% of them had increased customer revenue, and 37% of those companies increased employee morale, because it enabled their staff to be able to do not only what they love to do, but equip them to be able to do those things in the best way possible. And you cannot argue that that's even more important right now, considering the idea of work from home, right? So next week, as a matter of fact, next week, Thursday, same time as today, which is 9 o'clock Central African time, we are going to host a webinar on how you can go about creating a digital modern workplace. So we will be sending out invitations for that. So I do hope we'll see you again during the time. So going back to what Alvin Toffler said about unlearning and relearning, two of the things that I hope that you'll take away with you today as a business leader or as a business professional, two things that are critical is that, number one, digital transformation is less about technology and more about strategic thinking, right? Yes, it's the phrase or the words are digital technology, but it's really more about strategic thinking. It's about innovation, right? It's about creativity than it is about technology. And during this webinar, I'm going to show you a little bit more. And secondly, it's really technology is more of an enabler. It's the vehicle that's going to enable you to go to a new destination, meaning you have to define that destination, right? And so your job as a business leader or as a consultant or as a strategist and talking about strategist, right? If you're a business leader, if you're a CEO in your company or COO or whatever the role you play, you yourself are your strategist in your company. And so you need to play this role. And part of the role that you need to play is to make sure that you provide your company with a competitive edge, right? That you enable and engage your employees so that they're happy, they feel empowered. You need to define and implement and design new products and services. Clearly, things have changed, and so we need to adapt. And in some cases, it may mean going out to market to find new customers, consumption models, and to increase the capacity and efficiency of your business. So more than that, business leaders need to develop the ability to innovate and reinvent themselves in order to provide the company or enable the company to have organizational agility, right? Now, that is the capability of a company's ability to change, adapt, considering where we are today. This is the new reality, so to speak, right? There is no old normal anymore. It's really about creating a new reality. And in order to have the new reality, you have to be intentional in how you go about creating it. And to do that, it's really about looking at your business from the ground up, okay? Reinventing your business like nothing ever existed before. And I'm going to share with you over the next couple of sections how you can go about doing that. All right. So we've kind of created the context. What I'm going to do now for you is I'm going to take you through the 5 steps to digital transformation. Okay, let me just check in with you folks. Is this useful so far? Are you finding value? If you can just type in the chat box to say yes, I hope, or no, if that's the case, obviously. I hope that we've created context now. So what I'm going to do is go into more of a teaching process where I'm going to show you how to go about implementing your digital transformation or accelerating it if you already have. So thanks to those who are acknowledging, much appreciated. Thank you very much. Grant, always great to see you. Liz, thank you. And Tavi saying, thank you guys for always being such great sports. Much appreciated. So what I'm going to share with you are the steps. Okay, we've kind of thank you everyone. Much appreciated. So we've kind of distilled the process that you follow for your digital transformation to 5 steps. There are 5 very deep steps. I'm going to do my best to give you context around those 5 steps. And as I mentioned in the digital transformation book called Thrive that we wrote, there is a little bit more detail. And obviously we are always here to help you answer any questions you may have. So here we go with those 5 steps. Okay. Number 1 is you have to develop what's called a transformative purpose for your business. Okay. You cannot start, and you can start somewhere else, but it may not be efficient. As a matter of fact, through research, we know that it isn't effective to start anywhere else. You need to start with a transformative purpose. And I'll tell you why a little bit in the next couple of minutes. But more importantly, it's really to inspire your entire organization, okay, in order to follow that new, to follow and to be part of that new vision that we spoke about, that new destination that the company wants to go to. Secondly, you want to engage your staff and partners, okay, for buy-in and support. You don't want to define the strategy and then only engage them, okay? You want to engage them first in terms of where you'd like to go, where the challenges might be, how those challenges may be overcome, and more importantly, where are the opportunities and how can those opportunities be taken advantage of or exploited. Folks, you want to do this before you define your strategy, okay? Number 3 is before your strategy, you want to innovate a compelling value proposition and a forward-looking business model. Clearly, things have changed. We need to start looking at how we're going to change the value, define new products, and maybe find new customers to which we can provide our existing products and services in a more innovative and digital way, okay? That's step number 3. Step number 4, it is at the stage that you actually define your strategy. Okay, can you see how late in the process is at number 4? This is where you formulate your digital strategy, because you cannot have a strategy when you don't know whom you are providing your, number 1 is what the value proposition is, whom you are providing it to, what kind of business model you're providing it to, and do you have buy-in from your partners? And your partners, are we talking suppliers, we're talking other stakeholders, we're talking communities, we're talking obviously customers, okay, to some extent, and obviously internal support for buy-in. And so you need all of that. And in order to get that, you typically need to start with a vision, with an inspirational, inspiring purpose statement. Again, that's creating context for step number 4. And lastly, step number 5. And by lastly, I'm using the word loosely, okay, because it's not the last thing you do. It's the one thing that you do consistently from here on going forward. This is really about execution. It's about developing a strategy, rather executing your strategy. More importantly, monitoring it and constantly improving and adapting. Always keeping your eye on the ball to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. So this really are the steps. And folks, I'm going to take advantage here and say that in step number 5, A-Game is actually in the process of developing a strategy monitoring tool that helps companies to not only make your strategy more visible to all your people within the organization, but also to track performance and execution. So you'll hear more about it over the next couple of weeks. We are really still at the beginning process of developing this tool, but we're hoping we'll have it out before the year ends, as a matter of fact. So you'll know more about it. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to give you a little bit more details under each step, okay? So step number 1, we spoke about defining a purpose to inspire your digital transformation journey, all right? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Now, when you define a powerful purpose on which you can build your digital transformation strategy, you want to enable your organization to have a strong foundation upon which to focus its people, its time, energy, and resources. And it becomes that much easier really to inspire others for buy-in and for choices that need to be made about the future of the business, as well as the direction it needs to take. So the company's core purpose is really the reason you exist as a business. It's something that is persistent, forever relevant, and unlike your products or your quality or value proposition life cycle, your purpose doesn't have an end, okay? It's probably something you'll never achieve, but it's there for a reason. And that reason is more than anything to inspire you to do great things through your business, and more than that, to inspire your people. So your purpose is really the reason why you need to find a core purpose on which you need to build your business, right? I'm going to share with you a couple of famous examples, starting with the famous and very successful Apple. You know, what I'm going to share with you folks, you know, I'm such a fan of these companies that I'm going to share with you. Yes, they are predominantly American companies, but they are global companies, right? These are the companies that we are using today to communicate as we communicate now. You know, I'm using Microsoft, who's also an example that I'm using. I'm literally on a MacBook right now, and I'm using Microsoft technology, which is another example I'm going to share you. But what I'd like you to take away from this are the inspirational purpose statements that you should use to inspire and help you create your own if you don't already have one. And if you have one, maybe you might want to transform your purpose so that it speaks to the new need, right? But anyway, firstly, Apple's core purpose, and it's not to think differently. Here's Apple's core purpose: to make a contribution to the world by making tools for the mind that advance humankind. Now, that's why Apple is in business. They're in business to contribute to the world by making tools for the mind that advance humankind. One of my other favorite companies ever is Microsoft. Nadell, who took over Microsoft, I believe it was around 2015, 2016. I could be wrong, but he came up with a new vision and a new purpose statement for Microsoft. And Microsoft's purpose statement is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. They say we strive to create local opportunity, growth, and impact in every country around the world, right? That's beautiful. Now imagine waking up every day, going to work, knowing that that's what your business or your organization does, right? Massive transformational purpose statements. My other favorite company is Google. Google's purpose statement or purpose is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful to everyone around the world, regardless of their income levels or backgrounds, right? Very purposeful statement. My other two favorites, Walt Disney and Nike. So Walt Disney, as I'm sure, especially those with kids or those who are eternal kids like I am, you know, I still watch Walt Disney movies. Disney's purpose, and I see this, you know, when I'm with my kids, I mean, watching these movies, Walt Disney's purpose statement is to create magic and make people happy. That's what I see. That's what I witness when I'm with my kids and we're watching either Disney movies, or I get them toys or apparel from Walt Disney. And lastly, ultimate favorite, Nike. Nike's purpose statement is not to just do it. That is their obviously their slogan, but their purpose statement is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And they say, for as long as you have a body, you are an athlete. How powerful is that? So I'm hoping these examples will inspire you to come up with your own example, right? And if you're looking for any additional inspiration, I would highly recommend that you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them. You can choose one or two to align your purpose, your company's new vision or your company's new purpose statement against one or two of those. And if you look at where the world is today, you know, we need companies that are purpose-driven in order to help, you know, shift part of the balance back at least to where it was, and then we continue to improve it from there on. And just lastly, around core purpose, one of my ultimate favorite authors is Jim Collins, who's written books like Built to Last and Great by Choice. This is what he says about purpose statement. He says a core purpose statement is an organization's fundamental reason for existing, for being, and that an effective purpose reflects the importance that people attach to your company's work. It taps into their idealistic motivations and gets a deeper reason for your organization's existence beyond just making money. So this is, folks, this is where we start in order to drive the digital transformation. If you do not have a motivating and inspiring purpose statement that will drive inspiration within your organization, chances are you are already reducing the likelihood of success when it comes to your digital transformation. And with that said, this is why it's important to actually define and drive the purpose statement, is because change is hard, right? 70% of change efforts fail. That's a massive number that's a significantly high percentage of change efforts that fail, okay? Going back to what we said about businesses that used to fail within the first 3 years and those that didn't make it beyond the 10 years, this is a very similar phenomenon. businesses fail, and so does change. People hate change. But if you give people a big enough reason, going back to your purpose statement, if you give them a big enough reason to change, they will engage with you, they will participate, and they will feel that they're being made part of the process. But not only that, that the process of change is important. This is why we have a need to define an inspirational and captivating purpose statement. But speaking to the second step in your digital transformation journey, you have to engage key staff. You can't always engage everyone, but you want to look at engaging the very key and the very important staff members, management, the board, and obviously your partners, who include your suppliers and other parties that you work with to help you deliver the value that you deliver to your customers. You also want to engage your communities and obviously your customers for that buy-in, for that support towards this change, because you want to make sure that you improve the probability of the success that your business is approaching and taking charge of in as far as change is concerned. So why is change so difficult? And why is the likelihood of your, and I don't mean to sound negative, but what is the reason that the likelihood of your digital transformation efforts will fail? I'm going to share with you a few more, again, going back to the importance of engaging your staff so that you increase the probability of the change happening more successfully. The reason is because, around change, there's a couple of things you're going to need to deal with, okay? One of them is complacency, right? Complacency happens when people feel satisfied with how things are, right? You remember that feeling, right? Remember the feeling last year when you felt, you know what, digital transformation, maybe there isn't so much of a need, but look at where we are today. Now, a big part of business leaders, a big part of businesses have failed as a result of that complacency. We know there's a need to change, but we don't change accordingly, right? So even when things are clearly needing to be different, people still want to be complacent around the change. Complacency leads to people doing nothing about a situation that they're in, even when the situation is not favorable. It's easier, always, it's easier to do nothing or act as if everything is fine, right? It's easy for people, especially in groups, the group mentality, okay? This happens a lot in companies where group mentality simply just takes over and everybody just act as if they don't have any problems or that they're not facing a threat. And that's actually what's going to continue killing many businesses, because business leaders are still not taking, as far as at least I'm concerned, they're not taking enough measures and making enough effort to take full advantage of the opportunities they have at this stage to participate and to unleash some form of digital transformation. Complacency, right? Another way that business people avoid engaging in digital transformation conversation is by frantically moving from one thing to the other, right? Never pausing to prioritize what's truly important. So prioritization is another issue. People are in denial and constantly being busy. This can quickly kill any change efforts. So be mindful that even you, as you are starting this process of digital transformation, that you are going to face these things. And please do not be complacent about the importance of addressing these issues. As a matter of fact, how you go about doing all of this, engaging your key staff members, one of the models that we love, and Askhomutso is on the call as well. She's one of our partners. She does major change efforts in big businesses in the country. And one of the ways that we go about doing that is, partly, it's not the only way, but it's using Dr. John Kotter's 8 steps of change management. So you want to also use these approaches, these methodologies within the overarching digital transformation methodology. So I'm going to share with you a few steps around this. So feel free to look up Dr. John Kotter's 8 steps. I literally have bought just about all of these books. Sorry, I'm just looking back at my bookshelf, and I have 6 of his books. Amazing books on digital transformation, on change rather, not digital transformation. But what we've seen is we can really just layer his change management over any kind of change efforts, and it works like a gem. But that's obviously if you do follow the steps accordingly. So what I'm sharing with you is under step 2. Please don't get confused. I'm sharing with you step 2, which is how to engage your staff. Now, within engaging your key staff, your partners, you have multiple steps. I'm only going to share with you 3, if not 4 steps within step number 2, okay? So step number 1, when you are engaging your people for purposes of change, you want to establish a sense of urgency. I hope you are realizing, folks, that we haven't even spoken about technology, okay? Do you see this, just the crazy perspective of what digital transformation is all about? It is about people. It is about leadership. It's about strategy and innovation more than it is about digital technology. As I said, digital technology is merely an enabler for you. These are the soft things that have become extremely hard for many people to do. So one of them is to establish a sense of urgency, right? And the most difficult, it is one of the most difficult steps in the change process, in establishing sense of urgency and maintaining it throughout the change process, right? What people like Dr. John Kotter found was that most organizations like to skip over the steps, the step in particular, because leaders or organizations or the people who lead organizations assume that since I am feeling urgent, that everybody must also be feeling urgent. That's not always the case. In almost all cases, it's never the case, as a matter of fact. Others put very little effort in establishing the sense of urgency. Now, what Dr. John Kotter did earlier on, he wrote one of his first books, actually. I believe this was the very first book. It was A Sense of Urgency. And it's also the first step within his change management. And he really speaks about emphasizing the importance of urgency. And in the book, he demonstrates how you can go about encouraging it, recognizing it, and how you can go about implementing measures to improve and to maintain a sense of urgency, because you can't just raise a sense of urgency now and then it dies off. It has to be something that you maintain throughout. And that is a key critical element throughout your change process, is maintaining that sense of urgency. Right, you want to make people feel like there's great opportunities and hazards everywhere, that they need to find ways of mitigating in as far as risks are concerned, and obviously exploiting those opportunities that are concerned, in digital transformation being that one opportunity at this stage. The second step within your change effort, you want to create a guiding coalition, right? A guiding coalition is a group of powerful enough people who will help lead that change. Obviously, if the business is small, one person can kind of drive it, but let's say you are 10 people, you want to maybe engage and have 2 other people, or possibly even 3, okay, that will help you to drive that, that change process. And that guiding coalition, or those few people, will really increasingly will help you to deal with an increasingly fast moving world, with critical level headed and strategic leadership and management, which is critical to change, especially when the change is high stakes, like the survival of a business, right? And so the larger the change that is required, the more important it is for this guiding coalition to be of the right people. Now, those right people need to share the objective, right? They must have a shared objective in common, or a common goal rather, to work towards. There must be trust amongst that group, meaning the people in the group need to trust each other, and everyone else in the organization also need to trust that group, that these people can actually do the job. Okay, that's also how you go about engaging everybody else in the business, by ensuring that there's a sense of trust amongst everyone else, right? And also, this group needs to have power, right? By power, we mean there needs to be enough key players either on the board, including line managers and highly credible frontline workers, supervisors, so that they can form part of this team, i.e. so that this team is not blocked whenever they try to drive the change initiative, right? And also, they need to have expertise. Very important. They need to ensure that various points of view across the levels and across different silos are adequately represented, so that the coalition can make informed decisions. Without the skills, without the knowledge, it reduces the probability of success. And then credibility. It's important. The guiding coalition must have enough people with strong reputation, so that the rest of the organization will take them seriously. And step number 3, you want to develop your change vision. Okay. Remember, we spoke about purpose. There's a difference between purpose and a vision statement. A vision is really that specific destination where you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, which is really part of your business strategy. Okay, so now we're going back up the hierarchy, and as far as looking at the major 5 steps, we've covered purpose, the need to develop your purpose. We've just spoken about engaging your key staff, your key partners, and your community, specifically internally inside your organization. Now we're talking about step number 3, Step number 3 is where you innovate a compelling value proposition and forward-looking business model. What I'm going to be taking you through over the next couple of steps, rather next couple of slides, is something you want to pay attention to, because there are nuances that can help you to start considering how you can go about looking at innovating specifically both your value proposition and business model. So what's a business model? A business model is really like a blueprint that defines or gives some idea to your business strategy. Okay, it gives you an ability to look at how you can really start positioning yourself, start looking at which customers you can provide which value proposition to, and the relationship you need to have with them, and considering things like your revenue streams. Many people don't understand that there's something close to 9 different revenue streams of a subscription nature that can be utilized. I'll find a way of sharing that information with you should you require it. It's actually in a book by I forget the gentleman's name. It's not important for now. I'll come back to you with those details should you need it. But again, these are some of those components that form part of your business model. Your business model will really provide you with a view on how you can drive specific items or specific dynamics of your business in order to provide value to your customers. And a big part of your business model is your value proposition and obviously your customers. Okay, these really define the value that you provide. And if the value proposition is not meeting the customer's needs that we spoke about earlier, the expectations, a company will not survive for long. Okay, so the development of the value proposition must be done very carefully to ensure that it contains the elements that customers are expecting in as far as them accessing, purchasing, and consuming the value that they have expectations on that your company can provide. And we've seen how critical it is for the delivery of your value proposition to complement instant gratification, digital delivery, on-demand delivery, that subscription economy as a way that has been driven largely by technology, hence the need to digitally transform. What I'm going to share with you are examples that we spoke about. I did mention that I was going to share with you some examples that companies that have done fantastic work in as far as innovating their businesses. And here's the thing. These are all examples that have been prior to COVID-19, but are still very much relevant. And these companies have seen major success since COVID-19. And again, because they've been ready for such disruption. I'm going to give you a couple of categories of examples, right? The first category is called digital natives, right? And I'm not talking about the kids that were born post 2000 in the new millennium. I'm talking about companies. These are companies that are really on an ongoing quest to look for a way to digitally transform their value proposition and business model, right? Digital natives are companies that were born in the digital era, right? And these companies have taken full advantage of digital technology to provide a compelling value proposition. And there are 2 ways in which they've done that. Excuse me. These companies have disrupted their industries by delivering directly to customers through something called disintermediation, okay? So companies like Facebook, Amazon, WhatsApp have done something called disintermediation. So they've disrupted the value stream, the value chain, by going directly to the customer. So let me create a better context. So disintermediation is really when a middleman, right, or an intermediary is removed from a value chain, okay? So it's really going in to remove somebody who's in a certain place using digital technology as a way to disrupt that value chain or several transactions that happen before the customer and the supplier. And therefore, the suppliers, rather that middleman and the intermediary, typically lose out on the associated value. Hence, the word disruption. So what Facebook did is they took out the media companies. You remember companies like Entrepreneur Magazine, which we're going to talk about a little later. In South Africa, a company that studies how businesses work also took too long to adapt to digital transformation, and companies like Facebook disintermediated them. It took them out, i.e., we as businesses, we as customers can do advertising directly to our customers. And so we don't need the media houses as such, media houses like magazines, newspapers, and so on. Yes, they still exist, but the point here is there's major disruption that companies like Facebook, WhatsApp, and Amazon did, right? And WhatsApp disintermediated cellular networks, right? The companies like MTN, Vodacom have lost they've lost billions in revenue because WhatsApp disintermediated them. And that's why we are now able to send each other text messages, video call each other using WhatsApp, okay? They've taken them out, really, removed them in the value chain. And Amazon disintermediated what's called traditional book stores and enabled publishers such as ourselves. That's why we've been able to publish 5 books ourselves directly, going straight to the market. No need to wait for publishers. Also, so Amazon didn't just disintermediate bookstores, but they also did that to publishers as well. So authors can directly publish on Amazon and obviously can sell their other products and services on Amazon. Okay. So another set of digital natives are companies like Airbnb, Uber, and Fiverr. So what they've done is the opposite of the first set. What they've done is intermediation. Okay. So intermediation is when a company finds a way of inserting itself. So instead of remember the first category, they were taking the middleman and the intermediary out. But what this category of businesses, what they do using digital technology is they insert themselves between the supplier and the customer. Okay, it's going to make sense in a bit. So, for example, Uber, what Uber did with riders and drivers is it inserted itself between the taxi drivers and riders to say, use us in order to provide that service. The same thing happened with Airbnb and the same thing happened with Fiverr. And as a result, these companies are making billions. Yes, COVID-19 has affected actually just about Uber and Airbnb in a significant way, but companies like Fiverr, who are using exactly the same model, have just about nearly doubled their revenue, which was already in hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So the last category here are companies like Get Smarter and NetFlorist. These are local companies that have done amazing work in using digital technology to provide what they do, slightly different to the first 2 categories, is they use either their own infrastructure or third-party infrastructure to fulfill customer delivery, okay? They will simply use a technology, and that technology will provide access to customers, and customers are then directed or channeled to third parties in order for those third parties to provide that service using either the company's infrastructure or third-party infrastructure, okay? Second category of companies that have really innovated amazing value proposition and business models are what we call digital reinventors, okay? Now, a lot of people think Netflix is a digital native. Netflix is not a digital native, okay? We've put it under digital reinventor because they didn't start as a digital company, right? These are companies really that were born pre-digital, prior to the digital era, and they found a way of leveraging digital technology and have adapted and changed their business model altogether, all right? Some of those companies include Microsoft, and I'll get to that in a sec. So a little bit about Netflix. Netflix was really born during the time of DVDs. I know some of you remember. They started out by posting DVDs to their customers, and customers had to post the DVDs back after watching them before they provided them with the next set of DVDs. The difference, one of the major differences is 2 actually. They didn't have physical stores, obviously. They were using the post. And also what got them so much favor from the customers is they were not charging the penalty fee that the likes of Blockbuster and other movie rental places used to do, like Videotown. I live in Lone Hill, and we actually have a Videotown around the corner, which is very interesting. So anyway, Microsoft, as much as it was a digital company, or rather a software company at the time, it was a software company. They also needed to transform their business model and value proposition and make it relevant for the changes that were happening over the last couple of years, right? Over the last decade or so. And this is one of those things, one of those processes and visions that was led by Nadell, obviously post Bill Gates and the team and so forth. We can never really take that credit away from them. But what Nadell did with Microsoft now is truly amazing. please, again, make sure to attend the next couple of webinars that we have over the next couple of weeks, and we'll show you a little bit more of just the magic that Microsoft has kind of brought about in the market. So what change did Microsoft do? Microsoft used to sell CDs. You remember that? Remember we used to buy software on CD, but now what they do, Microsoft changed their business model to one of software as a solution, as a hosted solution, more than that, okay? And so they've developed applications like Business Central and so on. Again, we'll share those examples with you next week to show you demos and so on. And lastly, digital reinventors that did this included companies like Entrepreneur Magazine. Now, overseas, entrepreneur.com did very well, but unfortunately in the country, our Entrepreneur Magazine locally failed in 2019. Last year in January, they printed their last print edition, which was really depressing. And later, when they tried to adapt to this business model, it was unfortunately too late, and they actually failed. So by August, you know, companies like Ndalo Media and Entrepreneur Magazine, they really shut their doors, which is very disappointing. Again, it speaks to how quickly one will take advantage of digital transformation. So others who have come out, you know, to change and to disrupt the business is really companies like Apple. What Apple have done with the iPod and iTunes, I mean, it's mega, right? It took them to hundreds of billions. If I'm not mistaken, I believe their market cap of both companies are at $1 trillion US dollars, if not more. I mean, companies like Google have, and you might think that they designing and innovating these technologies in-house. You know, it all starts with looking and seeing opportunities outside. If I'm not mistaken, companies like Google have acquired smaller businesses. So there are businesses out there that are developing apps right now that you yourself could go out and actually acquire. There are small one-man shows that are developing amazing digital technologies, and I commend you to go out and look at those. Folks, we have a few minutes left. I'm just unfortunately going to rush through the next couple of slides just to make sure I don't take too much of your time. But these are companies that you know that have done amazing things in as far as digital transformation is concerned. But again, by taking an existing value proposition, finding the best way to deliver that value proposition through a scalable and profitable business model on the foundation of digital transformation. And this is all work that can be done, at least in terms of defining them, can be done in a space of weeks, okay? And what then will depend on is is that sense of urgency we spoke about, how engaged your staff are, and how willing you know, the company is towards you know, staying on the path of execution. So step number 4, you need to formulate the digital transformation strategy. This is really about having a detailed plan, making sure that you're going to make informed decisions, having clarity about what everybody's supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, and to have a benchmark and a positive stimulus that's going to help ensure that you go about executing that plan of action. And lastly, number 5, you have to execute that strategy, right? Like we said earlier, change efforts are hard. 70% of them fail, right? And companies that would typically define their business strategy, 90% of them actually don't execute successfully. That's just about depressing, okay, when you think about it. But anyway, this is partly why we are making the effort of informing people wherever we can, our customers, our clients, to say there are ways to go about doing this to improve the probability of success. And one of the ways to do that is through our SIMO digital transformation framework and methodology. So we've layered 2 methodologies on top of this. Again, please don't feel like I'm robbing you of anything. We do have a slightly detailed framework, this particular framework in the book. So for those who haven't downloaded the book, I will share with you the link to download the Thrive ebook on digital transformation, or you can just simply go to our homepage on our website, which is againbusiness.com. Right in the middle, in the very first screen where you land, you'll see a blue button that says download the digital transformation ebook. But basically, it unpacks this entire model. It gives you, at least at a high level, right, the steps that you can follow to implement this particular methodology. And this methodology applies at step number 5, okay? This is really the last part. And the last part, like we said, is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't consider attending to digital transformation if you are thinking of short-term processes. This is really something that you're going to need to do for the rest of the life cycle of that business. And folks, with that said, just to recap quickly and to make sure that we do end the webinar on time, the 5 steps that we spoke about. Number 1 is you have to develop that inspiring purpose statement to drive your digital transformation. That same inspiring purpose statement will help you with step number 2, which is to engage your key staff, key partners, your community, your customers, to get that buy-in and support, okay? And the reason is because change is hard, change efforts fail. You want to improve your probability of success. Number 3, you want to innovate a compelling value proposition in a forward-looking business model that's going to enable you to provide that value proposition against the customer preferences and against the customer expectations that they have. Step number 4, you then, based on what you've done, obviously you want to formulate a digital transformation strategy, which will give you a clear plan of action. And lastly, number 5, you want to execute that using a framework or a methodology that everybody knows, okay? That everybody sees, that everybody can touch and feel to say, okay, this is where we are and this is where we're heading. Folks, in respecting your time, we've really come to the end. And I just want to bring you back to where we started to say, businesses have always been failing. We've always been coming to a stage where disruption would have been at the state at which we are in now. You don't want to find yourself in your business in a worse state. Do what you can now. Companies like A-Game Business are here to help you with that journey. So feel free to reach out. I'm in a position to take questions now. And just in closing, understand digital transformation is not a sprint, okay? It's a marathon. I don't think you can wake up one day and be able to run the race, right? You have to train for it. You have to go out and do what needs to be done to prepare yourself for the race in order to make sure that you'll complete that race, if ever, right? So start training now, get ready, continue to educate yourself. And I do highly appreciate that you've spent this last hour with us for you to learn, because going back to what Alvin Toffler said, it's really about making sure that you unlearn, relearn, and learn new things that are going to help you to succeed in this day and age. With that said, thank you very much. We are here to provide you with free consultations, free needs analysis, and to see and to explore really if there's a fit between what we do and how we can help you with your digital transformation journey. And on the screen is my email address, and obviously through the invites and the reminders that you've been receiving, my email address is there. So feel free to simply reply to any one of them. Folks, thank you for spending the time. I'm here to answer questions that you have. I'll be around for another 5 minutes or so. Thanks again, and I do hope that you found this productive and that you'll also continue to have a very productive day ahead and the rest of the week, and that we'll see you in the next session next week, because it's a continuation. Next week, we're talking modern workplace. Thanks to everyone for attending. I'll be here again for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you to everyone. Linda says it was very useful. Thank you very much. Yes, let's link up on some of the issues. I'd love to help you, Linda, very much so. Sister Jenny, thank you very much. I will definitely get in touch with you. Thank you. Everyone, Brian, Grant, I really appreciate everybody for being here. You guys are such great sports. And I know you're not doing this for me. It's really about empowering yourselves. So, I do commend you for that. It's people like you who make the effort of learning, getting you information that's going to improve their probability of success. And like I said, it's undeniable. It cannot be argued that we do need to do what we have to do in order to reestablish and to re-energize our economy, whether in this country and beyond. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brian. Grant, always a pleasure to have you with us. And Tabi saying thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad you enjoyed the content. And again, I know some of you who are here have downloaded the ebook. For those who haven't, simply just reply or just go straight to our website, which is agamebusiness.com, and you will see that Thrive ebook there. I appreciate it very much. All right, Tanesi, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, I promise I'll keep it up. Yeah. And thanks to my team for helping with the content and obviously with setting this up and getting the people that we got on this call. Folks, thank you very much. It seems like there aren't any other questions. So we're going to end the presentation at this stage and the call. Again, you've got my email address. Feel free to stay in touch, get in touch. We've got free consultations and free ways that we can find that we do have to provide you with any additional value that we can provide with you, because it would be great. We would love to tell those new stories about the new successes post lockdown. Thank you and goodbye. Speak to you soon. Cheers.